So will Donald Trump cancel Christmas? That's the subject of today's video. And in fact, the things that are happening today with the trade war will have major implications for coming this December. And maybe your kids won't be getting the toys that they really want because, frankly, there'll be no toys on the shelf. This is the headlines coming today. We'll talk about this. LA port chief offers bleak outlook for cargo slowdown. Basically, they can see the number of ships coming in from China. They know all of the orders. We're down about 40%. Looking forward, it might be down, roughly 35, 40% going into the future. And right now, everyone's kind of like, okay, so where are the tariffs going to be? What do we do? Right now, it says Trump's got a 145% tariff on China. That's the last time that we checked. I know that he has said we're going to pull back some tariffs on cars, but there's still tariffs effect on China on other stuff. And if you know this, about 80% of the toys that go to the USA are made in China. About 90% of like your Christmas decorations and Christmas lights, these kind of things, are also made in China. So if the tariffs are going to be 145%, retailers like your Home Depot, your Walmart, your Target, they might not put in the orders because it just costs too much for them to import stuff. And if consumers, end up seeing these prices because the import tax, basically the tariffs, are going to be passed on to you to the consumer, do you want to pay higher prices? It's going to have a major ripple effects into this coming holiday season. Already the longshoremen and the warehouse workers, they made a statement on this. This is coming from the union. They say here, these tariffs are nothing more than a direct attack on the working class and should be opposed outright, right? So obviously they're going to be against it. And for any of you who work in supply chain, I know we have a lot of people in our community that do. Let us know. At least according to the Port of LA, you're looking at 40% decrease, that kind of stuff. Are you seeing it at work? Are they telling people we don't need you to come in this week? And does the staffing levels direct exactly the say 40%? I wouldn't be shocked because if there's not enough work, right, you just don't have people come in. And a lot of these type of jobs, they have some full-time staff that's sort of like your more senior level, but then they have a lot of like part-time workers and essentially on-call kind of thing. And this because shipments can go up and down. Now this is the what we're talking about Christmas. This came out from the New York Times today. It says retailers fear toy shortages at Christmas as tariff frees supply chain, right? And I told you guys before, it's not just the toys themselves, which is obviously a big part of Christmas. It's the Christmas decorations, the Christmas lights, and like all the Christmas related stuff. Like basically everything's made in China. Read a little bit of this. It says here, toy makers and children's shops and specialty retailers are pausing orders for the winter holidays as the import taxes cascade through supply chains, right? So factories in China produce nearly 80% of all toys, 90% of Christmas goods sold in America. So it says toys, Christmas trees, and decorations. That's the kind of stuff, right? And usually you're ordering this stuff ahead of time, and you get your shipments in, you get on the shelf, and it feels like every year Christmas starts earlier when you're buying your presents and then your decorations. This is actually a quote from someone who they are ahead of the it says chief executive of the Toy Association. So that represents like 850 toy manufacturers. So they would know. It says, quote, we have a frozen supply chain that is putting Christmas at risk. Wow. If we don't start production soon, there's a high probability of a toy shortage this holiday season. So, I mean, and this is why I told you guys in the intro, is like, is Donald Trump, attacking Christmas? Is he going to cancel Christmas? They meaning the Fox News and the Trumpers, they always complain that there's some sort of, anti-Christmas culture out there, and we're all trying to cancel Christmas. But the people who are attacking Christmas the most this year is actually Trump and his ilk with these tariffs. I mean, you're seeing it from the toy makers themselves. They're saying like, we're just not going to have as much stuff coming in. This is actually interesting. This was someone named Karen Dyer. So it says the founder of Storytime Toys. So she makes like books and puzzles and things like that. She gets a bunch of stuff from China, and she was saying she ordered like 30,000 worth of products, and when the tariffs, hit her, which she's already expecting, it's going to be 45,000 in tariffs. So it says when it arrives, she said she expects to owe 45,000 in tariffs on $30,000 worth of product. I mean, it's so insane. And then she says she's going to pass that cost on to the consumer, which is a shock here. Here's another quote from her. It says, I'm going to hold out hope for another 2 weeks that tariffs will be removed and I'll be able to place the order. But if not, I will have to put my business on pause. I will definitely not place an order if the tariffs are in effect. I wouldn't make that. It wouldn't make any sense. Here's another thing. This is coming from the Toy Association. Again, you're threatening Christmas here. In a Toy Association survey of 410 toy manufacturers, so there's a whole bunch of them, annual sales of less than 100 million, more than 60% said they had canceled their orders, right? So they asked a whole bunch of manufacturers, what are you doing? 60% said they canceled their orders. Also says 50% said they would go out of business within weeks or months if the tariffs remained. So not only would you have empty shelves coming this Christmas, you have a lot of people who depend on basically the Christmas trade or Christmas sales to stay afloat, and they'll go under. I mean, it's a major issue, and it's like Trump's promising like all these jobs and stuff like that, but this is like opposite of that. Here's another quote here. This is from West Side Kids in New York City. So they asked the shop owner, and they say here, they're concerned that they may not have any toys to sell at Christmas, and the toys she can get her hands on could cost twice, wow, what they did last year, which would crimp her sales during most important time of the year. So this is true. So there are some people who will pay the higher prices. They're just like, no matter what the price of that PlayStation or Xbox, I'll go onto eBay and I'll pay whatever ludicrous price. Because I remember this, guys. If you guys remember during the pandemic, those were like very hard items to get, the new Xbox and PlayStation. Cameras are that kind of situation as well. But with this tariffs thing, like toys, man, you have a shortage and you have like double the cost. It's literally what they're saying here. And then you have this. This is coming from Financial Times. Wall Street's kind of already predicting, right? If the tariffs stay in place, then the trade war still goes. What could happen? They're saying GDP could go down. Headline: Wall Street banks predict GDP contraction after U.S. trade deficit hits record. Companies rush to import foreign products in March ahead of imposition of wide-ranging levies. So what does this mean? Basically, so right now the numbers are a little bit artificial in a way because people rush to basically panic buy, get ahead of the tariffs kicking in, and ordered a whole bunch of stuff, right? So the next quarter we'll see sort of that downtrend of where there aren't any orders, right? This particular first quarter might have had a whole bunch of orders, but this next quarter maybe not so much, and then we start to see contractions in GDP. I think they were predicting like negative 1.4%. Yeah, it says this has come from Morgan Stanley. The import surge ahead of tariffs was even larger than expected. Okay, so a lot of people did order ahead of time, so we haven't quite seen the down numbers as much as we could have. And then it says they added that as a result, they slashed their first quarter GDP forecast from 0 to an annualized rate of negative 1.4%. That's the kind of stuff that we're going to see. And this is the question that kind of sort of watching is what's going on with the trade war. And so why I show you guys when we look at what Percent says or Karen Levitt or Trump themselves, and they basically lie about talking to China, it means we're not making any progress in this thing, right? And so if we're not talking to China, we're not making any progress, what does that say for Christmas? And people need to start getting their orders in now to prepare for December. And that's what we're watching. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. And if you're affected by this industry or this tariffs right now, please let us know in the comments. And I'll catch you on the next video.